Hello, everybody. I'm so glad to have you here, and thank you for watching this wonderful restorative justice movie called Tribal Justice. We appreciate you being here with us today, and we're going to be having Hanali Patel join us as our facilitator for our Q&A, but I just wanted to say hello and get us started here. So my name is Stacy, and my pronouns are she and her. My background is kind of blurred, but it's one of the rooms in my home. And I wanted to let you know that live captions should be enabled on our call today, on our Zoom today. So please feel free to turn that on for yourselves if that is of use for you. I'm wearing a black shirt, and I have blue hair for those of you who might be a little visually impaired or unable to view the discussion today. So at Inform Your Community, we offer events that combine information with fun. We find that the best way to talk about difficult topics is to talk about them. So we're here today. You can find our social media links on the bottom of our website, and tell your friends about us and sign up for our mailing list to the left on our website. This topic of restorative justice is a very important topic for us to discuss, particularly with recent legislation, a recent Supreme Court case, actually, that just we may talk about today as well. But based on 2020 data, the average annual cost for a federal inmate in a facility in the fiscal year of 2020 was $120 per day, which right, and to put an inmate in a residential reentry center, it costs $97 per day. So it actually costs less to help folks out who are incarcerated by putting them into a reentry center than it does into a federal prison facility. So just to give you an idea of kind of some of the issues that are at play when we talk about restorative justice and prison reform and incarceration. So it's clearly an important topic. We want to remind everybody we're not experts here. We're learning about these topics, and we're sharing the information we've learned with you all. And you'll have the opportunity to talk about this topic as well in our Q&A, which will start in just a minute. So help to understand this topic further, I wanted to introduce Hanali Patel. She will guide our discussion for us today. And feel free to just ask questions either in the chat, or you can raise your hand, or you can just speak as you like in our discussion today. So Hanali, why don't you take it over?
Yes, thank you, Stacy, and good evening, everyone. I am Hanali, and I'm the program director for Popcorn and Chat at Inform Your Community. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm an Indian woman, and I'm currently wearing a blue top, and I have a black hair, black eyes, and my background is also blurred in one of my rooms. And yeah, and feel free to unmute yourself for our discussion when you have a comment, or you can type your comment in the chat box, or use the raised hand icon. And yeah, so without further ado, let's get started. The film shows the difference between the two types of programs, a more traditional prison program and a more restorative justice type program. So what is your opinion on how restorative justice was portrayed in the movie? And again, feel free to unmute yourself and make any comments. What did you think of the movie in general?
This is Lila. I thought it was excellent. I mean, it was eye-opening. I had no idea something like this existed. I think it needs to be in more communities. It brought tears to my eyes. I mean, twofold, for the successes as well as the failure, or, you know, the misstep for Isaac and all that. I just thought it was wonderful.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. Yeah, and according to the Pew Charitable Trust, more than 40% offenders return to prison within 3 years. By contrast, Planting Justice says that the recidivism rate for the men who go through the Garden program is 10%. Knowing this, educating ourselves about restorative justice is very important. And yeah, so what do you think influences restorative justice in the US today? What do you think is like the influencing factors? that plays a factor in the restorative justice.
Cost. Cost. I think somebody had an answer there. We didn't hear it. I think it was cost was the answer. Yeah, cost. Sorry.
Yeah, I agree.
How tell me more about cost. What do you mean?
Well, I mean, the cost of human life and the financial costs are just really ridiculous. You know, we run a prison industrial system. We don't run a rehabilitation system, and even in most European countries, you know, some European countries never give life sentences because they don't believe in them. I mean, United States is probably one of the only industrialized countries in the world that even has a death penalty anymore. So I can understand wanting to kill somebody that kills a member of your family, but I don't think it's the state's job to take a life either.
We
Yeah.
have a relevant comment in the chat as well, building off of that.
Oh yeah. Deborah said corporations make more profit in the prison industrial complex. Yeah, definitely
Yeah.
agree. And I think race is also one of the factors, according to the Federal Bureau of Complex. Yeah. Sorry. Race is one factor, according to the Federal Bureau of Prisons. 13% Black Americans in the U.S. population. 38% of people in prison are Black. So that was a little shocking for me. And the movie advocated for justice reform. That can seem like an overwhelming goal. What do you think we can help with justice reform as individuals or as a community? Or how do you think we can help as a community with justice reform?
Well, first of all, I think that we as Americans, we just need to learn to live together and work together, respect each other, and just drop all of these negative attitudes about race and culture, and just, we're all here. We're all people, we're all humans. Let's just work together. I think that we need to get back to the basics. And by the basics, I don't mean the basics of the beginning of the United States, because those basics were not right basics. I'm talking about the real human basics.
Yeah, that's where it starts, the foundation. So,
Also, our educational system is really bad too. So if we can improve education for everybody, especially people of color, because of redlining and and all these other issues that people of color have faced, I think that it's a problem that we don't have a fair and balanced, that local taxes pay for your education when national taxes don't. Only I think, only like a very small part of taxes comes out of national taxes. So I think that for people who live in, especially like in low income neighborhoods, don't have an opportunity to really get a good education, which leads to a whole bunch of other issues coming down the line, like drugs, alcohol. You know, it's a cycle. It's like a circular cycle of issues. So the first thing we have to do is have an educated population.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think we have a comment in the chat box too. Deborah said the prison system evolved from the plantation system. Is it Angola or Angela? A prison in Louisiana was even built on the side of Angola plantation.
Angola.
Angola. Okay. Yeah. And then Stacey pointed out 55 countries still retain and implement the death penalty based on the link she just shared in the chat box.
It's interesting to point too about the prison system involving alongside the plantation system, because when we did our community policing event, one of the things we mentioned is that having an organized police force was started also because related to race, because it was basically monitoring like the slave trade and so forth. So it's interesting to in line with that the prison system also evolved similarly. Unfortunate and interesting.
Yeah. And there are also some core values that are associated with and necessary for restorative justice. There are self-care, empathy, and empowerment, and they can go a long way. Also, it's important to repair harm and give back to the community. Programs like Greenhouse Garden Program at Rikers Island started in 1997 demonstrated how restorative justice can help put some of these values into action for those in the prison system. In this program, people are incarcerated learn about the horticulture and help run a prison garden. So I think that's also very important. Like I've also heard about this one organization. I can't remember the name of it, but they teach the people in the prison meditation and different tactics to work on themselves internally. So I think those things also make a difference. And yeah, and according to the Prison Policy Initiative, prisoners make 62 cents an hour, but they work 8 hours a day. When I learned about this, I was shocked. There are a lot of surprising things about prison reform, and I hadn't realized that were powerful for me to learn. Some of you guys may have found this to be a powerful movie. Why was this movie powerful for you in general? Like what stood out for you? What made it come out to you? What spoke to you? I think
Empathy
empathy.
and patience.
Yeah.
That the that the tribal people had were not really taught that in America too much. You know, we're taught that if you do something bad, then regardless of the reason, you should go to jail, and it's very cut and dry, when really it's not. So
Yeah. And we also have a comment in the chat box. Deborah said, seeing the traumatized individuals who are responsible for harming others in the community. Yes, that also stood out for me. What I thought was interesting was seeing I forgot the name of the child, but seeing him get the help he needed and him basically being more, I guess, calmer child for the parents versus Isaac, who had trauma that he dealt with when he was young. And even though he wanted to change, he kept having the urges, and the patients really played a big part in the I guess the reform for the individual. Stacey said the cycle of trauma. Yes.
I was just gonna say, the contrast between, I think the child's name was Drew.
Yeah.
Between Drew and Isaac is that I saw was that Isaac really didn't have anybody, no real family members, or what I want to call it, natural family members or whatever, birth family members supporting him, whereas it looked like Drew did have that. And the issue started when, you know, he was acting out because of his sickness and, you know, all of the things that were going on with him. His mom thought that she was doing the right thing by calling the state. But when she did that, that just took him in a whole new realm of issues and problems. So Drew did have people that cared for him, wanted him, and loved him, whereas Isaac really didn't. He had extended family that cared, but his mother and father, they pretty much seemed like they were out of the picture and really just, you know, didn't really care about him.
Yeah. And Stacy said the two featured children were Isaac Pallone and Taos Proctor. And yeah, so can you guys suggest some resources for someone wanting to learn more about restorative justice? And you know, so I think it's important for us to familiarize ourselves with restoration of former incarcerated people back into a community. So what are some of the resources that you guys can suggest that we can implement in educating?
I really can't suggest any resources because I came across this program by accident. I was just in Eventbrite going through some stuff, and it said something about a screening, and I was like, well, what is this? So it's only by coincidence that I even found it. So I too would be interested in more information like this. So I'm looking to you to tell me.
Yes, we're no experts, but this discussions really help with educating people in a way. So that thank you for coming to the event. Very grateful that you're here. And also you can look at our Inform Your Community's website where we have infographics of different topics. We have one for restorative justice where we talk more about the different statistics and factors involved with restorative justice. Yeah.
I would
And
also,
there also yeah.
sorry, Hanali. I would also recommend looking up the Child Welfare Act. It's what helped the folks in the movie, the kids in the movie, stay with their family and stay within the tribe. But it was actually a Supreme Court case that just got decided either this week or last week. I think it's 8 days ago. The Supreme Court upheld the Indian Child Welfare Act, but it had actually been the lower courts had oh, and somebody else put a resource, great. But anyway, lower courts had actually decided against it and kind of struck it down, which would put these kids potentially at risk to be in the regular judicial system, which currently does not have a strong restorative justice bent to it. But the Supreme Court just upheld the Child Welfare Act. So it's just really fascinating to read about it. I went down that rabbit hole myself this week. I just couldn't get enough reading about it because it was just so interesting and so terrifying that was even, it's something that had to go to the Supreme Court, like literally this session. So sorry, just want to mention that as a resource.
Yeah, thank you. And then in the comment, Dr. Ahonkai, if I'm not pronouncing that incorrectly, put a resource about CTIPP, which is the Campaign for Trauma-Informed Policy and Practice. A Washington-based organization is working to create a public awareness of the realities of trauma and a trauma-informed society with a focus on healing and prevention and elimination of stigma on those who experience mental health issues due to trauma. And there's also a link in the chat box for you guys to check out. Yeah, thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
And yeah, and also we can also try researching important events from past related to prison reforms and restorative justice, like Auburn prison disaster in 1821, or war on drugs in 1971, or first victim impact panels in 1982. I encourage you to look up more about these important moments in history so you can continue learning about the history of the prison system that has prompted the current interest in restorative justice. And I think Stacy put in, the first victim impact panels in the chat box. And yeah, anyone has any final comments that you want to make about the movie or anything you'd like to share? All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for attending the discussion and learning about the topic with us. I will turn to Stacy to do the conclusion.
And Hanali, if you want to put, the other one is just the war on, I just wanted to put them in the chat so people could.
Yes, I'll put them on there.
War on drugs was the other one, and how these impacted, the judicial system and so forth. So this is great. Thank you so much, Hanali, for facilitating this discussion. Thank you, everybody, for who attended. We really do appreciate your being here. So Inform Your Community has some additional events coming up. We encourage you to check those out, including an event. Let me just see here for one moment. So sorry. Our next event is going to be a much discussed event, and that is our game night. So a little different from our movie night. This is going to be a game night in our much to discuss program, and the topic's going to be remote learning and remote working, and it's kind of fun. We have a scavenger hunt and a trivia, so please do sign up for that. That's July 13th at 6:30. That's a 1 hour long event. And we are so grateful you're here. We want you to realize that this, of course, is not a one and done topic, this topic of restorative justice. Instead, we encourage ongoing conversations about these issues. In addition to checking out our infographic and our website that was put in the chat, we also ask that you commit to one weekly action to learn more about restorative justice. And this could be, as simple as researching how prisoners are integrated back into a community, correcting the narrative when somebody stereotypes somebody who's formerly incarcerated or even currently incarcerated, changing our language and how we talk about folks who are formerly incarcerated or currently incarcerated, so that we focus on the people themselves. And also familiarizing yourself with notable people who play a role in kind of prison reform and restorative justice and the judicial system. So people like Amal Clooney, yes, George Clooney's wife, Archie Williams, Brian Stevenson, and actually if Hanali or Tyler, you can throw those in the chat, that would be great. Brian Stevenson, and even Martha Stewart, who really kind of helped us understand the judicial system a little bit differently as well. So kind of finding out more about those folks. And we're going to be sending everybody who registered for this event a post-event, what we call a post-event email. In that email, you'll have a survey. We ask you to tell us a little bit about what you thought about the event. Additionally, you'll have the link to this discussion, as well as the video of this discussion, as well as our infographic. And we encourage you to check those out and share those liberally. But as well, we have a poll that we're going to launch right now. We ask you to do this one. This one is a bit different from the one you're going to get sent by email. So you should be seeing that now. Hanali, can you confirm that you can see it?
Mhm.
Oh,
Yes.
great. You guys can see it. Fantastic. So you can go ahead and do that poll for us. It's very appreciated. And of course, we're here to answer any questions in the chat. Thank you so much for coming, and we really welcome your feedback on this very short poll. And Hanali, thank you. And thank you, Tyler.
Thank you, Stacy. And thank you everyone for attending.
Oh, and there's some more so there's some more resources in the chat. Just Mercy, Brian Stevenson, and Just Pursuit by Laura Coates are two good books about the judicial system. So that's great to know as well. Thank you for sharing those.
We actually
very-
have Just Mercy in our resources list as well.
Oh, fantastic. Well, I'm glad about that. That's great. Good, great minds think alike. What can I say? And I'll throw those,
That's-
those names in here as well. So appreciated. So I'm going to throw the names in that I mentioned while everybody is filling out that quiz. Thank you very much. We hope to see you all at a future one of our events.
Good night, thanks.
There you go. So those are the names we just mentioned, as long as the one as well as the ones that Bernadine mentioned. So thank you all for coming. I think we've got the poll complete. Have an absolutely wonderful day, and we hope to see you at another event. Thank you, Hanali, for facilitating. Very appreciated. Take care, everybody.
Thank you so much. Thanks everyone.